It's now our privilege and honor to pay tribute to the memory of our fellow firefighters who were lost on 9/11 by presenting an award that memorializes the name and the legacy of Deputy Chief Ray Downey, one of the greatest fire service leaders of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join with me in welcoming another great leader, the Chief Executive Officer of Penwell Corporation, the parent company of Fire Engineering and FDIC, my good friend and my mentor, Chief Robert F. Biachini.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be here again, and I'm happy to be a part of this show on a continuing basis. It is a tremendous show that you people make, and we hope to continue to improve it and grow it. But last night, this is not on the script, but I went to the firehouse, as I always do, to the men who train live fires. And this is a unique group of men, and I want to publicly pay attention to them and give them honor, because that's what makes this show unique. It's they're putting themselves out, and I will tell you, in the 18 years that we've run the shows, live fires, we've had only one incident of a knee and you think of how many people go through this training. We need to pay some attention and honor to those guys that were working that. I think we had, Bobby, did we have what, 6,300 people go through that training. And the most important thing we do is to train people to save lives. So I just wanted to put that, it's not on the script, but I think they should get a hand. Having said that, Chief Ray Downey, by his participating in the 87th Annual Fire Department Instructors Conference, on behalf of all of us at Penwell, FDIC 214, an event that firefighters have made the single largest and most important firefighting show in the world. Thank you for your continuing support. 203 marked the 18th anniversary of Fire Engineering's direction of FDIC conference and the 137th year of Fire Engineering magazine, serving the interest of the fire service. As the CEO of Penwell, I am very proud to be able to support and help direct the most meaningful fire training and educational event in the entire world. I will tell you, this is off the script as well. We have shows, as you might know, on 66 shows of this type on all 6 continents. But this is the one that is the most important to me as the CEO of Penwell, because the public service that's here and the heroes that come to this and keep our families safe in North America is very, very important to the ownership and management of Penwell. So I thank you again for being here, supporting this, and we will go forward with this wonderful award, but I wanted to make that comment. If I may, for a moment, I would like to extend a personal thanks to all the individuals who help us to deliver this world-class program. We have many great partners. I cannot possibly hope to mention all of them, but if I don't, Bobby won't forgive me, so I'll go forward with a few. The appreciation to all those selfless efforts make this great conference possible. I want to also pay some tribute to the fire department here in this wonderful capital city of Hoosierland, and they have been superb for 18 years in volunteering people to help us on this show. And recently, they have adopted our training manual, and I'm going to talk to the governor when he gets here on the appreciation we have for that, because we think it's the best training manual there is. Bobby worked on it in a big way, and we put a lot of time and effort into it. So I think it's a superb training manual. Further, I would like to extend a special thank you to all of the firefighters here today, not only for your participating during this special week, but also for your loyalty to your duties throughout the year. This morning, I am once again deeply honored to participate in the presentation of the Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award. Chief Ray Downey was an extraordinary man who I first met 18 years ago when we took up this show. He was an icon and is an icon, and at the time, Ray would do anything that you wanted him to do in terms of, he came to Oklahoma when I called him and the Murrah building went down. I called him to come and write a story. This is not in the script either, but he came, and Governor Keating, a good friend of mine, put him on as the world's expert in collapsed buildings, and for 2 weeks that's what he did, and then he wrote the story afterwards. He's an exceptional person, he was, and he was a devout father and husband, and a Marine and a wonderful guy. So the courage and valor was obvious to me on 9/11, what he did, that he stayed in the building with his people. So I just want to make that point. Well, I'll go back on the script now, please. If you don't move it, I'm going to have trouble. Like every one of you, he often repeated during his illustrious career that he was just doing his job. The Courage and Valor Foundation mission is to help honor an individual firefighter whose actions reach extraordinary heights. The Courage and Valor Foundation is a perpetual endowment to assist the American Fire Service in continuing to recognize Chief Downey and those firefighters who bravely and actions in the face of certain harm mirror his. The Courage and Valor Foundation wishes to extend its appreciation and thanks to the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, represented on stage here today by Director Ron Cerneski and the National Fire Academy Alumni Association, whose president, Ron Kinderman, is standing here today with us as well. We are grateful to these men and the associations they represent for assisting in the Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award selection process. It's a difficult process to go through without experts, and Ray Downey's two boys have been an immense help for Bobby and our committee in selecting the honoree. This morning, we honor a true American hero, Lieutenant Greg Pickard. Lieutenant Pickard's conspicuous act of bravery, despite life-threatening conditions, exemplifies the deepest nature of the firefighter. A nature that defies the most powerful human instinct of self-preservation. And so it is fitting that our most elaborate and sincere tributes are made to those who have intentionally given their lives for others, such as Lieutenant Pickard. Now please join me in welcoming FDNY Battalion Chiefs Joe Downey and Chuck Downey, Ray's sons, for the presentation of this 2014 Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award.
Thank you, Bob. On behalf of the entire Downey family, thank you for continuing to memorialize the legacy of our father with this tremendously important award. This year marks the 13th anniversary of that tragic day on 9/11 when we lost our dad along with 342 of our brother FDNY firefighters. In their memories, this morning, we recognize the actions of Lieutenant Greg Pickard, whose actions exemplify the very best in mankind, the very best in firefighters. His actions that night defy our ability to express in words his devotion, his loyalty, or his love for his fellow firefighters. Lieutenant Pickard performed his duty gallantly under extremely adverse, dangerous, and life-threatening conditions. In spite of intense, dramatically changing conditions, he chose to enter an extremely hostile environment. Despite these conditions continue to deteriorate, he endeavored to rescue his fellow firefighter, Lieutenant Eric Wallace. His actions on that day exemplified the highest traditions of the fire service.
But before we tell Lieutenant Pickard's story, we want to express our family's gratitude to the Courage and Valor Foundation. We also would like to thank the fire engineering advisors and staffers who are continuously on the lookout for particularly courageous acts to request nominations. The selection process has several components, each involving firefighters from across the country. We receive reports of unparalleled bravery, and it is always an extremely difficult task to narrow it down to just one firefighter, whose actions rose above all others. But in the final analysis again this year, there was one who stood above the rest. One candidate whom my brother Joe and I agreed reminded us by his actions of our father, Chief Ray Downey. Lieutenant Pickard reminded us of our dad in other ways as well. Lieutenant Pickard was a member of Texas Task Force 1, an urban search and rescue task force that has deployed on numerous occasions and has always performed its duties in an exemplary manner. Our father, Chief Ray Downey, was instrumental in the development and organization of the Urban Search and Rescue Program, and we would be very pleased that someone with the same interests and dedication is being recognized here today. And now to Lieutenant Pickard's story. On February 15th, 2013, a fire started inside the Knights Columbus Hall in Bryan, Texas, when an electrical fan cord shorted out. The cord ignited a plastic first aid kit and extended to the counters and then to the remainder of the structure. The Bryan Fire Department was notified at 11:19 p.m. Multiple companies responded. Lieutenant Eric Wallace, the first officer on the scene, arrived on Engine 1 and determined that the fire should be attacked offensively, since a small amount of fire was visible in a corner of the structure. After about 13 minutes inside the structure, Lieutenant Wallace and firefighter Eric Jurgen began to exit the building because their air supply was depleted. They became separated, and Lieutenant Wallace became lost and disorientated, and in the heavy smoke and the debris that caused him to lose contact with the hose line.
Lieutenant Wallace radioed the incident commander and reported that he was lost and low on air. The incident commander directed the rapid intervention team, which was standing right outside ready to respond, to enter the building to rescue Lieutenant Wallace. The RIT duties were assigned to Engine 5, comprised of Lieutenant Greg Pickard, firefighter Rick Manty, and firefighter Mitch Moran. As Lieutenant Pickard, Manty, and Moran prepared to answer Lieutenant Wallace's Mayday call, fire conditions inside began to rapidly deteriorate. The roof on two sides of the building started to fail, and the fire broke out violently. Without hesitation, Engine 5's crew immediately entered the involved structure without the protection of a hose line to search for Lieutenant Wallace. Lieutenant Pickard led the crew into that hostile environment without hesitation. They found Lieutenant Wallace about 40 to 50 feet inside the bingo area, which was under heavy fire conditions. As they were moving in to exit, a sustained flashover occurred.
When the flashover occurred, Engine 2 was inside firefighting efforts in an adjacent area of the building. The Engine 2 officer came back to the bingo area where he witnessed the crew of Engine 5 carrying Lieutenant Wallace across the room and which was fully engulfed by fire. Even though they were engulfed in the flashover and their protective clothing and equipment were burning, the crew members of Engine 5 never relented in their efforts to continue dragging Lieutenant Wallace out of the building. Exhibiting superhuman focus and enduring unimaginable pain 10 feet from the exit, all three rescuers collapsed from their burn injuries. All of Engine 5 crews, as well as Lieutenant Wallace, were severely burned during the flashover. Lieutenant Pickard, Firefighter Manti, and Firefighter Moran were removed by other firefighters. The four firefighters were transported to the hospital trauma unit. Lieutenant Wallace succumbed to his injuries shortly after arrival at the hospital. Lieutenant Pickard succumbed later that day.
While all Engine 5 crew members performed with exceptional courage and heroism, it was Lieutenant Pickard who didn't hesitate to lead the crew into the hostile environment with the undeniable determination to find and remove Lieutenant Wallace. Lieutenant Pickard, Firefighter Manti, Firefighter Moran were airlifted to the University of Texas Medical Branch Blocker Burn Center in Galveston. Firefighter Manti, Moran remained in Galveston for more than 3 months, undergoing numerous surgeries and treatments and therapy. They continued treatment for several months after being released from the burn unit and still face several months of ongoing care.
Lieutenant Pickard exemplified the highest tradition of the fire service, risking his life as a fallen fellow firefighter. His courage, perseverance, selfless efforts are to be honored for directing the valiant rescue of Lieutenant Wallace. Lieutenant Pickard dedicated and aggressive actions in attempting to saving the life of another firefighter are in the highest tradition of Bryan, Texas Fire Department. Lieutenant Pickard's presence of mind, selflessness, and ability to maintain his composure under extremely stressful and personally dangerous circumstances made him a hero. Here is a little of Gregory Pickard's background. Lieutenant Gregory Pickard joined the Bryan, Texas Fire Department in 1981. He was a member of the rescue team of Texas Task Force 1. He was the urban search and rescue team manager. He was an EMT and held advanced firefighter certification. Lieutenant Pickard is survived by his beautiful wife, Susan, who I met in the back, and her two children, Robin Carpenter and Jacob. Jacob is a firefighter, paramedic with the College Station, Texas Fire Department. For his extraordinary courage and valor, Penwell and Fire Engineering present Mrs. Susan Pickard, Greg's widow, with the 214 Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award, along with a $35,000 check for the from the Fire Engineering Courage and Valor Foundation. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mrs. Susan Pickard, widow of Lieutenant Gregory Pickard, the 2014 Ray Downey Courage and Valor Award recipient. Please.
My name is Randy McGregor. I have the distinct honor to serve as fire chief for the city of Bryan. And I just want to say, on behalf of the Bryan Fire Department, thank you to all of you for your support to this event. We cannot be more happy or more proud of Lieutenant Pickard. And we're just very grateful for all your support. Donner Page is such a great man. He was a very dear friend of many of us. We'll forever miss him. Thank you.